Hey, what's going on, guys? It is me, Merific Boy, here with a video on 5 blocks that you need to stop using in Build Battle. Now, these are sort of my opinion, but I am going to try to give you examples to show you exactly why they don't work. And I'm doing the top 5 most commonly used. There's a lot of just bad blocks like sponge or magma, but people don't really use those a lot. So I'm focusing on the 5 that I see most people use. Like, you're probably going to see at least one misuse of these in every build battle game, not always. And I do want to clarify, I'm not a build battle expert. I have like 50 wins in 1 year of playing it. So I'm not great at build battle, but I just want to say that if you just stop using these 5 blocks in certain situations, you can greatly improve your builds. And I'm not saying that these blocks are totally unusable, like, no, never use these blocks ever. I'm just saying be smart when you're using them, and I'll give you examples on how they're used well and how they're used not so well. So over here, I'm just gonna look over here. Alright, and for number 5 we have cobwebs. Now, cobwebs are actually kind of cool. They have a sort of netted texture, and that's pretty unique. Not many other blocks have this kind of, well, actually none of the other blocks really have this kind of, and that makes it pretty unique because you can use it for things like nets. They're really good for nets, so like a basketball hoop or a ping pong table with no legs. Also, by the way, all the builds in here are going to be really small and bad. That's because I just want to give you examples. Like, you could build a way better basketball hoop than this, for sure. But I just want to illustrate, because if I build a giant basketball hoop, that doesn't really matter. What matters is that you see how it's used. So, here's an example of how it's used badly. So, here we have a terrible cup with some brown liquid in there, and there's cobwebs on it. Obviously, this is supposed to be imitating steam coming out of the cup, like steam. It just doesn't look good. It just looks like a bunch of explosions happening above a cup, and it's just awkward. Now, if I were building this, I would replace these cobwebs with white glass panes. And the reason is, well, just look. They're so much more streamlined. They look a lot more elegant. Like, and when you put the two together, like this one, which one really gives off the steam image more? I definitely have to go with this one. So yeah, if I had to make a recommendation, these can be used for things like nets, but if you're using them for other things, especially for steam, I recommend just using white glass panes. That's a lot better. Like, look at this display case I made. Obviously this wasn't meant for cobwebs, but if it was cobwebs, it would look a whole lot worse. Just think about what it would be like if we didn't have these glass panes and we only had cobwebs to work with. That'd be pretty scary. Alright, number 4 is wool. Now, wool's a pretty popular choice, and the reason it's fairly low is because it's a lot of the time people use it okay. Like, it's in that gray area where it's not really awful, but it's not really, like, great. So, wool is good for soft fabricy things like shirts or the very bad pillow that looks more like a trampoline even. But the problem is a lot of people tend to just use wool in everyday things, like maybe this sword or this dish, and it just looks not good. It looks like, well, it just looks like a shirt put into a bowl shape. Or, like, are you honestly threatened by this sword? It looks like it could just flip over. Now, what I would use, of course, if you looked over here, is terracotta. A lot of new players probably haven't. If you're new to Build Battle, you might not have used terracotta yet. I highly recommend you do. It's probably the single best block for Build Battle, arguably. I mean, just look at how seamlessly it flows with each other, and it looks a lot stronger. Like, which would you rather bring into battle, this or this? And which would you rather have, this or this? To me, the choice is clear, but again, it's an opinion thing. Alright, at number 3, and I guess kind of an odd choice, but it is, because it's not used really that much. But when it is used, it's just used awfully. It's lava. Lava is interesting, to say the least. It's just water, but hotter. And as you can see over here, some use for lava are maybe this very small bad volcano, and that's it. Like, do you see, for cobwebs and wool, you can use them to make other things. But for lava, there's really no other thing you can use with lava other than just lava. Some people try to use it for hot drinks, like, say, this mysterious brown liquid. But it just doesn't look right. Like, when you look at it, it just looks like a cup of lava as opposed to maybe a cup of coffee. It just doesn't look good, I say. And also what some people do is they take this and they make it flow over. And it just creates this ugly side flow where you can't even see half of the volcano. And it just looks awful. Like, it doesn't look cool. It just looks like a bunch of lava flowing. So, again, just if you don't have to, I just recommend not using lava entirely. But there is a better solution. That is orange and red. Terracotta. I like to use terracotta a lot, as you can see. It just has that nice texture that wool and just wool lacks. And there's also concrete, which I like, but concrete isn't available in Build Battle, so anyways, as you can see, you can create a nice sort of flow that doesn't obstruct the whole volcano, and it definitely looks a lot better than this, but it's still not good. Alright, at number 2, and something that will probably surprise you all, and some of you might even get mad about, it is wood. Now, wood is actually probably one of the better blocks to use. The only problem is, it's also one of the better blocks to misuse by a lot of players, and I'll show you what I mean. So wood is very good for wood things, like tables and one-dimensional chairs. I mean, this just looks right. It's a table with wood. Obviously it looks awful because, I mean, there's no depth or anything. But what people do is they use wood in non-really wood things, like maybe this doggy dish or this ping pong racket, and it just looks off. Like, there's 6 different kinds of wood, and if I had to be honest, birch, oak, and spruce are probably the only 3 you'll ever really need. The other 3 are really just sort of side. Like, you can use them, but it's just their tones are just so weird that they don't really blend in. The problem is a lot of people like to use these three like this in these sort of contrasting ways, like look at this. Really, again, just black, brown, and white terracotta just look cleaner. The main thing with wood is that it has these lines. That can kind of create an off, like, view. Oh, great, now it's in my left hand. Anyways, like, it just looks so liney and awkward, like, it doesn't really look good to look at, where this seamless sort of thing. And alright, for the top. Alright, for the top most misused block in all of Build Battle, this one is no contest. It is the And now, for the most misused block in Build Battle, without a doubt, it is these ore blocks. You know, iron ore, gold ore, diamond ore, or even lapis lazuli. These blocks, you see, on the surface they look nice. It's a nice shade of light blue that you can't really get from terracotta or wool. But when you use it, there's just a problem. See here, this sword has a nice, clean... It doesn't look like a diamond sword, but it at least looks like a sword. It's seamless. The problem with these blocks is that they have these outlines around them. That gives it a really blocky look. Plus, these little shaders and different textures create off appearance to it. It just doesn't look good. And probably one of the worst ones. This is more of an honorable mention because I rarely see it, but it's just so infuriating. Lapis lazuli, because just look at it, looks like old rusted metal. And there's almost no situation you want to use old rusted metal. And it still has those ugly outlines, so that's not good either. But we're not quite done yet, because there's still one block that still technically is number one, because it falls into this category, but it's just used so much that I personally think that it has to be in its own category. And now, presenting the, I don't know, number 0, I guess? Anyways, the most misused and worst block in Build Battle is Quartz. I can see why a lot of people like Quartz. It has this nice futuristic design. It has a nice white appearance. It's nice and clean. It's a lot more whiter compared to, obviously, white terracotta. White terracotta is closer to maybe skin color. So, why is it the most misused block? Well, let's see. Here's the problem. A lot of people, much like the wool, tend to just use it as everyday things. The problem is because of its whiteness. The thing is, I could have also put iron ore here, but iron ore more fits into the elementals because it's used in like swords and houses. Quartz is in a field of its own. Because if you look here, just the seamlessness again of the terracotta, even if it doesn't look quite color right, it still looks good as opposed to the quartz with its lines. It just doesn't look, well, it just doesn't look appealing. It just looks like a bunch of squares. And like honestly, no one can tell me that this face is worse than this face. Just the lines make it look like it's a tic-tac-toe game. It's just awful. So, anyways, that is the 6, I guess? Or 5. 6 or 5.5. The 5.5 most misused blocks in build battle. Now, again, these can be used for good, but they should only be used for good. Try to learn from the examples I've given, and just choose not to use them in these sort of ugly, iffy ways, especially if there are far better options. Anyways, I hope you enjoy. If you disagree with anything I've said here, or if you think I've left something out, feel free to say something in the comments. Please be respectful. Don't be like, OMG, you said blah blah. Like, just say, I think that blah blah, cause blah. Like, if you just say it like we were talking face to face, that would be great. Anyways, thank you for watching, and see ya.